Hi, I'm Mark, and today I want to talk about possible plans for a stronger defense cooperation despite Brexit. In a time of profound change, Berlin and London need to work more closely together. That is the appeal of a German British politician duo. Nils Schmid, foreign policy spokesman for the Social Democrats in the Bundestag, our federal parliament, and John Healey, British Shadow Secretary of State for Defence and Labour MP, are calling for increased military cooperation between their countries. The UK and Germany must expand their defence cooperation to strengthen European security after the illegal invasion of Ukraine. That's the conclusion of a landmark report by Germany's Friedrich Ebert Stiftung and the British think tank Royal United Services Institute, published a month ago. Schmidt and Healey strongly welcome this report and want a far-reaching UK-German defence and security agreement to be signed within 6 months after the next UK general election, as a joint initiative of UK Labour Party leader Keir Starmer and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. This step will create jobs, strengthen NATO, and ensure the security of both countries. The reports by Vies and RUSI was already commissioned in autumn 2021, and Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine in February 22 once again underlined the need for more intensive bilateral cooperation. The report contains 19 recommendations for improving Anglo-German defense cooperation. These include the development of a bilateral treaty, increased cooperation on joint procurement projects, and more intensive cooperation between the British Armed Forces and the German Bundeswehr, as well as in operations and in training. Both nations have compatible armed forces, cooperative industries, and shared values. The British Armed Forces and the German Bundeswehr would have a long history of joint operations and exercises and would have a deep mutual understanding through British bases in Germany. Yeah, I had one next door. However, they believe that cooperation remains underdeveloped, especially compared to other key allies. Britain and France signed the Lancaster House Accords in 2010 to increase defense cooperation through technology sharing, joint procurement, and the launch of the Combined Joint Expeditionary Force. Germany and France have also committed to far-reaching cooperation with the Aachen Treaty of 2020. That's an update of the 1963 Élysée Treaty. On the other hand, there is no such contractually regulated security relationship between Great Britain and Germany. Without such a far-reaching contractual basis, cooperation is more provisional than systematic, according to the two. Yet they exist. For example, Britain and Germany have been working together on combat aircraft for 40 years. Both countries have worked together in Kosovo and Afghanistan and in fighting the Islamic State. In March of this year, the Royal Air Force and the German Luftwaffe conducted joint maneuvers and intercepted Russian aircraft for the first time as part of NATO's air policing missions in Estonia. However, only 28 German employees are currently being trained in Great Britain and only 6 British employees in Germany, including 1 Briton in the German Navy and 1 in the German Air Force. Industrial cooperation through joint procurement programs is one of the most visible and important forms of military cooperation between allies. Just as the Tornado and Eurofighter jets, products of multinational cooperation, have contributed to the security of Europe over the last few decades, vehicles are being built in Great Britain as part of the British Army's Boxer program and benefit from German know-how. However, there is currently only one bilateral defense procurement program between the UK and Germany, and that's the White-Wet Gap Crossing project, and only 8 multilateral procurement projects involving both countries alongside others. Allies are a strategic strength, is said by Schmidt and Healey, and Schmidt and Healey believe that closer Anglo-German cooperation on defense, security, and foreign policy can significantly strengthen both countries and their ability to respond to common challenges and to protect their citizens. As the RUSI FES report reveals, the UK and Germany are currently the 2 largest European defense donors, providing Ukraine with military, economic, and humanitarian aid. Transatlantic relations and NATO are at the heart of both countries' policies. After this large-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russian President Vladimir Putin, cooperation is needed now more than ever, and the 22 NATO report said the invasion shattered the peace and severely altered the security environment in Europe. Chancellor Olaf Scholz of the Social Democratic Party of Germany, the SPD, described the moment as a turning point. Just a few days after Putin's troops invaded Ukraine, Scholz overturned decades of German defense policy. And meanwhile, Britain's Labour Party has pledged its full support for military aid to Kiev and strengthening NATO allies. The Tories do that too, but it's not that important for the SPD here. And since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, they have urged that London needs to rethink defense planning and spending. Both social democratic parties stand up for the international rules and multilateral institutions. The commitment of the British Labour Party and the German SPD to NATO would be unshakable, they say. This alliance of democracies is the cornerstones for the defense of Europe in their point of view. And European NATO allies must assume greater responsibility for European security, particularly given the growing US strategic engagement in the Indo-Pacific region. And Germany, as part of the EU, and Britain should together form the core of a stronger European pillar within NATO. And they say the defense industry must react quickly to this new security environment, as must governments, faced with tight economic constraints, who must formulate higher requirements. The turning point would create new areas for industrial cooperation between Great Britain and Germany, and both countries could work together to take advantage of these opportunities, sharing costs, reducing risks, and creating steady demand. And this would help drive standardization and interoperability and expand the industry into new areas. The EU has also shown that it can make an important contribution to the defense and security of Europe with its sanctions against Russia and its humanitarian, economic, financial, and military aid to Ukraine. And that is why NATO explicitly describes the EU as a unique and important partner. And for Germany, the EU is known to be of central national interest. A functioning partnership with the EU based on trust and intensified cooperation in areas such as security policy has also been in Great Britain's national interest since the Ukraine war. Closer bilateral cooperation in the military sector between these two countries could support complementary cooperation between the EU and NATO. And one of NATO's three core missions, alongside defense and deterrence and cooperative security, remains crisis prevention, with the alliance committed to becoming the leading international organization when it comes to understanding and addressing the impacts of climate change and the adaptation around that. And there are good reasons to believe that Germany and Great Britain could jointly develop their own security agenda. The security threats posed by inequality, climate change, and lack of food, water, and healthcare would also have to be recognized, Healey and Schmid say. Efforts to counter these threats must be matched by adequate investment in armed forces and military cooperation. And Schmid and Healey want the RUSI FAS report to stimulate a broad debate on an ambitious Anglo-German agreement on defense, security, and foreign policy. And the report's recommendations would provide a solid basis for doing so. The goals focus on building a European pillar of NATO, developing interoperability, and expanding industrial cooperation in the defense sector. And for Labour, the report is a reminder that restoring ties with European allies is vital to Britain's national security. The Labour Party accepts Brexit and will not rejoin the European Union or the single market, they say. For Brexit to work, however, Britain must restore ties with key European allies that have been damaged, often intentionally, by the UK government's actions in recent years. But they're wrong on one point. You can never make Brexit work. A German-British security treaty would be an important step in this process in their eyes. And to achieve this, they say they need new leadership and a relationship between Berlin and London based on reliability and respect to strengthen security in Europe. As the Ukraine war shows, allies and alliances matter. And Germany and Britain could be a stronger force for good in the world if they work more closely together. That is the opinion of the German Social Democrats and British Labour. And there's a lot of correct stuff in what they are saying. But there's also very interesting stuff. Nils Schmid is the spokesman for the ruling Social Democrat Party in Germany, with Chancellor Olaf Scholz at the top. So this interviews they gave after the reports came out together, that shows me one thing, that the German government is not really believing to see another Tory prime minister after the next general election. So they have given up the Tories, and they are strengthening their ties with their partner party, they're both social democratic parties, Labour in Great Britain. And of course that's a normal thing, but to do it that publicly, to be honest, tells me a lot about the thinking that must happen in the German Chancellery at the moment. As I said, there were a lot of things that I agree with in their opinion about the relationships and the progress we could see in the future in defense and security. But there are also some things Labour once again said that I can't agree with. They are stupid. Just for getting back their red wall and getting into power, to say we don't want to rejoin the EU. They wouldn't even say we want to rejoin the EU in 20, 30 years or whatever, because they are afraid of losing of those still totally crazy voters that still believe Brexit is a good thing. And they are starting, in preparation of their campaign, to speak complete nonsense, and I include Starmer in this. You cannot make Brexit work. Brexit itself is a downfall. But seriously, before I get, my blood pressure is too dear to me to get there on a long filming day like this. We will have to talk about Labour and their Brexit nonsense soon again. But that is something that will not work either. Not the way they are talking about it now. They will not make Brexit work. They can soften the damage caused by Brexit, but that is the maximum they can achieve. And I have to lose one more word on the banner here. You might have wondered. I'm planning to, just to emphasize this for people who haven't seen my first video when I was talking about this, because it wasn't a topic that was not interesting for everyone. And so I want to say a few words about it again. I'm planning to do a Star Trek Fleet Command channel as well. That is something I'm playing for some time, because you need something far away from politics and to get your head off after a full day of filming and scripting and whatever. And so that is kind of a nice thing. And my other duties are politics as well. You know, I'm a voluntary politician and a voluntary deputy district mayor. And so I needed something completely different. And you know, I'm a Star Trek fan from my other channels as well. By the way, the next quiz on Outside Views Games will be a Star Trek quiz. Just saying. But it was planned for a long time before I even finally planned to do this new channel. And I'm very good at that. But it's a market with a lot of videos already, but people are telling me, no, you need to do one. We need your calm approach on this one. You need to explain it very well if we want to understand all the small little things that we have to take care of in this game. It's a very complicated one, to be honest. And so we need you to do this. That's what I hear from some people. And they convince me. But if I do this, I need to start with something trending. And then I have to invest in that game. On the long run, I will have to invest in that game to show people all they need to see. And YouTube is my main profession, and with all the voluntary work I'm doing, which I'm not getting paid for in the rest of the time, I need to be very careful, and I have to see how I can manage this. And that's why I started this campaign. I was like, it's not a crowdfunding campaign, but you can imagine it's like this. Instead of giving you into proceeds or whatever, I give you new content. And so everybody who contributes to this helps me get there to be able to start this channel. And it depends a bit. If it's too long until I got the first stuff together for it, I will have to wait another 2 months to start the channel when the next big thing comes out, because when the trend has ended, it makes no sense anymore to go with the current start. But it is not always such a big thing like we have right now. And so I appreciate every little piece of contribution that somebody would give to our channels to get another one started. And so I want to thank those again who already did contribute and want to help getting there. But we still need a little bit more of help to do it. And nevertheless, you know that you will see my next video on this channel tomorrow again, and I'll see you there. I'll be back.